Hey, citizens of YouTube land, Editor Jason here. You got your president over here. I like to apologize for something. If the clips look a little laggy, it's because this is my first time experimenting with screen recording on Clipchamp here, which is the new editing software we're using at the moment. Because video screwed us over.
Yeah, guys. Like you said, apologies. We're running a bit behind on our schedule as far as the stuff that we want to get out. So we're trying to get this out to you guys just as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
So on that note,
One more note as well. We were gonna put in one more clip. But then the editing software crashed as we were putting it in, and it made me so mad when that happened. But
yeah. So we're just gonna get this uploaded for you guys for your enjoyment. So with that being
yeah,
said, on with the show.
yeah. Sorry about that, guys. Hope you enjoy this.
Hello, citizens of YouTube land.
Hey,
It's your president and your VP, and we're back with the next installment of War Movie Month, this time focusing on the Civil War, featuring the outlaw Josey Wales,
nice.
which is based off of a book by. It's based off of the Gone to Texas by Forrest Carter, who in fact was actually half Cherokee.
Oh wow.
And he wrote this book as a reflection of his experiences growing up in southern Appalachia.
Hmm.
Now, it was directed by Clint Eastwood and starring Clint Eastwood. It was made for a budget of $3.71 million, and it made $31.8 million worldwide. And it currently has a whopping 92% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Where's the other 6%?
You mean the other 8?
Yeah, where's the other 8?
Not every film can be described as 100% perfection. This film is, in fact, we got to call it what it is. It is a revisionist Western talking about the South's point of view, the Confederate side, but it doesn't address slavery. Because here's the thing, guys. Some of y'all will have seen Gods and Generals. In fact, I have as well. And that movie is completely flawed because, uh, listen, first and foremost, here's the thing about Josey Wales right away. We'll get into this. The movie begins with a group of Kansas redleggers, as they were called at the time, attacking Josey on his farm. And it's just Josey, his kid, and his wife. Okay? And this happens, and it's brutal, it's nasty, and it's very effective because Clint, aka Josey, he doesn't even speak any lines at all. It just shows the scene and is letting you see what is happening. Now, the interesting tidbit about this is that in the movie Gods and Generals, it shows a group of, let's call them what they are, slave owners being ripped from their home. Here's the thing, though. Would you be sympathetic for somebody who owns other human beings being attacked? Or would you be more sympathetic to someone who lost their farm and their family?
Oh yeah, and he's also from Missouri.
Yes, because here's the deal. Because historically speaking, guys, pro union groups did some horrific things here in Missouri. Because those of you who may not know, we live here in Missouri, Branson to be specific. So it's the Ozarks region. And more than likely, I'm not sure, but there's a pretty good chance that Josey Wales' family would have lived here in the Ozarks. Because historically speaking, here in the Ozarks where we live, we didn't really have slavery.
No, it was the tilled plains that had that.
We were just, I mean, there were some to a certain degree, of course, but historically speaking, we didn't really have that issue here because, as he said, it was more, our land here is not really suitable for cotton growing, first and foremost. We live in a very rocky soil area. You dig a half an inch down here in our yard and you're going to hit rock. It's as simple as that, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it tells the side a sympathetic view for Josey because here's the thing: if the government were to come in to your home and burn down your house and make sure that your family sleeps with the fishes, well, wouldn't you want to join the side that's opposing all of that?
Yeah.
So what does he do? He joins the Confederates. And it shows a scene of the various battles and stuff that are taking place. And Josey and his fellow Confederates are actually captured. And this is where things get very interesting because the men have surrendered. And they're supposed to take the oath that they'll never rebel against the United States, which was a thing that did happen. That when Confederates were captured and they were going to be spared or seen as lenient, they were going to be given leniency if they swore an oath to the United States. Well, they do so. But here's the thing: there's what can be best described as a mass making of a sleeping with the fishes event.
Mm.
Josey, he doesn't surrender though, because he is basically on a one man path of vengeance.
Yeah. Basically, what happened was the Union got a freaking Gatling gun
Yep.
and, well, made sure that every single member of the Confederate Army that swore an oath to the United States slept with the fishes using such Gatling gun. And then Josey himself gets a hold of the Gatling gun and makes sure that the Union Army that made sure that his friends slept with the fishes also slept with the fishes using said Gatling gun.
Now, it's a very iconic type of thing, and we'll probably show a little bit here.
Terminus, line, Missouri,
Because you can find clips for it, no problem. So yes, guys, Josey, he is quite frankly one of the most badass characters that you'll ever see. And we don't normally say stuff like that, but there's no other way to describe Josey other than that, because this man is a one man rampage. That's what he is. And you do see, though, that deep down, he is hurt, he is devastated by what happened to him. And so he's going to start a new life in Texas because he's on the run. And they assign this guy named Thatcher to basically hunt him down and whatnot. Well, Thatcher is actually kind of pretty sympathetic to Josey in that he's not even really pursuing him necessarily. He is, but he isn't, type of thing. And along the way, in the midst of all these things that happen,
He meets a Cherokee chief.
yeah, and the Cherokee chief, he talks about how the United States government basically they relive all, and we have to address this too, guys, because
Oh yeah, the Trail of Tears.
it's put into the film, and he talks about how they were driven from their land, and it's horrible. It really is what truly happened back in them days. There was no excuse for it, and we should have been able to live in peace and harmony. But unfortunately, we as human beings can sometimes be inherently evil. And so there's that, guys. And that's the reason why the chief, though, had joined the Confederate side. Not because of slavery, but because the United States government had forced him and his people further and further and further west.
From the Trail of Tears.
So that's why he had joined. And he didn't have anything left either as far as this goes. So they come across these band of marauders, do him and the chief, Josey and the chief. And it's a group of evil white men. You got to put it like it is.
So yeah, he goes into a trading post, actually.
Yeah. And this trading post, well, I don't know how to really put it, but they're involved in an illegal activity that has always been and always will be, unfortunately, but it's the selling of humans. Okay? And so there's this Navajo who had been captured, and a Navajo woman that had been captured, and Josey and the chief, they managed to free her, and she basically is attached to Josey and the chief from then on. And so, because they seem to have had the belief that she belongs to them now, because she was rescued by them.
Yeah.
So,
well, her thinking is because she's been like this from an early age. Is that because he basically shot and killed her last owner? Oh, I guess he's my new owner now.
sort of, yeah. And so they are moving along. And here's the thing. In our history here in Missouri and Kansas, there was this thing called Bleeding Kansas. And it was led by a man, Redlegs, as he's called in the movie. And him and his marauders, they went around and they did what they did. And there's this particular family that they come across. It's an old grandma and her son-in-law, her daughter-in-law or daughter. And the daughter is kind of quirky and weird. She's played by Sandra Locke in a pretty cool performance. So the granny is espousing her hatred for Missourians. But you see, the thing is that at that time period, Kansans and Missourians were neck and neck in this struggle. But as we had pointed out, that here where we lived, it wasn't a thing. But you do have to, as I said, pro-union people were literally making sure people sleep with the fishes in the streets here in Missouri. You can't mince words about it. It did happen. And as I said, so she's giving this big speech about Missourians, and Josey is listening to it pretty quietly, pretty intently. And this whole time they're being pursued, right? And there's this bounty hunter. Here is the scene. He shows up, and the bounty hunter is able to recognize Josey. And Josey asks, "Are you a bounty hunter, kid?" And the kid responds basically with, "A man's got to make a living somehow." And Josey has this really great line where he says, "Dying ain't much of a way to make a living."
Yeah, he's got to do something for a living these days.
Dying ain't much of a living, boy.
Then there's a scene a little bit right here where he's cornered basically by 3 other bounty hunters. And he again with this really cool line where he says, "Are you going to draw your pistols or are you just going to stand there whistling Dixie?"
Hmm.
So Josey and his band of misfits, they're traveling into what's known as Comanche country. And Chief Tin Bears, he has been, of course, like the Cheyenne, the Comanche had been pushed further and further and further west. Now, the film does, as we said, the Native Americans, we have to address this, that they are portrayed somewhat as savages to a certain degree, but not really, because of that whole aspect that we covered earlier. But guys, listen, I hate to mince words about this, and this is just truly from a historical perspective, in that those things did happen between white people and Native Americans and so forth. These incidents, these atrocities did happen. So they were pretty realistic in that. Yeah, but on the same hand, here's also the thing, because the Comanche, in so many ways, just wanted to be left in peace and be able to hunt, fish, do whatever they needed to do. So Josey and his group of misfits they were going to this ranch that the granny had described that her son had left to had found and whatnot, and that there were plenty of antelope, fish, all that kind of stuff. When they get there, the ranch is run down. It's left in disrepair. So they have to repair it, but they also have to come to terms with the Comanche. So Josey, he comes up with an idea that, hey, here's what can happen. Either we go to battle and there's a bunch of people that are going to end up sleeping with the fishes as a result of this, or we can just live in peace. You guys do your thing, we'll do our thing. We won't take any more than what we need to support ourselves. You guys do the same thing. We'll get together, we'll have a big powwow, so to speak, and everything will be great. As long as you guys live up to your word, we'll live up to ours.
And so the Comanche chief Tim Bears is like, yeah, I choose live, because he's like, you can either choose live or you can choose sleeping with the fishes. He's like, I choose to live, and so he like makes a blood oath with Josey.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool scene.
So, because there's this long-standing tradition of of blood oath, blood brothers, where 2 men might cut their right hand slightly and then they join together in unity. So that's a pretty cool aspect. And so, unfortunately, though, the Union Brigade had caught up with them. And there's this big battle scene where the ranch is attacked, and Josey had been fortifying it, and Josey ends up getting wounded at the very end. But the local townspeople made up this story about how Josey was gunned down in Mexico, and he's dead. Thatcher is there, and he understands and recognizes Josey. And he says another great line where where Thatcher says, you know, if I ever run into Josey again, I'd tell him that the war is over, but it took a little bit of peace of all of us. And Josey says, yeah, I'm sure it did. And so that's how it ends. And it's so good, guys, as it doesn't focus on that, but it tells a motivation for why somebody might join that particular side. And it is a revisionist Western, of course, because, many people would not want to see uh, a character like that, but at the same time, they also would, because Josey Wales, the way Clint portrays it, is somewhat similar to Blondie from the Dollars trilogy, in that he's very quiet and stoic, a man of action, a man of results. He's got a quick draw, and he's able to do all these fantastic things. So it is a fantastic film. And on the same hand, Clint came out and said that he views it as an anti war film because it's truly showing some of the atrocities of why these things happen. Because, as we've said, war is brutal, it's not to be glorified, it's violence, it's nasty, it's all these things. And he shows that to a certain degree as well. So, for me personally, 5 out of 5. What say you?
Also 5 out of 5.
It is so good, guys. Go out of your way to check it out. We found it on Tubi. It's also available on all kinds of other different streaming services. You can find it, of course, if you're into it. You can go way back in the time machine, get it on VHS. It's also available on DVD, Blu-ray, all that stuff. It's great. Check it out if you've never seen it before. But of course, as always, if you have seen The Outlaw, Josey Wales, and you believe that it is the worst war film of all time, well then, clearly you have never seen
Braveheart.
Braveheart. We'll go there, I guess. As it's completely made up bullcrap. At least there's a little bit of historical significance to Josey Wales. But that's not to say that Braveheart doesn't have some great battle scenes in it too. And maybe, as we were comparing and contrasting in the last one to a certain degree, maybe someday we'll do Braveheart, where I do my best to defend it while he brings up all the points of why it's not so good. So, anyways, guys, that's it for this one. But stay tuned, where next time it's going to be Gettysburg,
Yeah, Gettysburg.
which is continuing the war movie month. And until then, there's only one thing left to say, and that is, of course, peace and love from Denny and Son. Bye.